may you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Tove Søvndahl Gant. I'm an expert member of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, and I'm from Greenland.
Thank you. And good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah, of course. May you please give us an overview of today's session?
Today's session is actually the most important session because it's a thematic main theme of our session, which is about enhancing Indigenous people's right to self-determination in context of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, emphasizing the voices of youth. And it has been really very encouraging to see the very large participation of youth, Indigenous youth delegates, and to hear their resolve and enthusiasm. And then they also telling us a very important lesson that it's so important that we, both those of us who are elder, that we actually, don't just celebrate youth on a day like this, but also put actions behind our words, so that we also make sure that Indigenous youth are included in decision making when we in our work to strive for our self-determination.
Thank you. And what are the key issues that have been discussed?
Maybe I will not talk so much about the key issues for this theme, but maybe some of the key issues that I think will come up and which are also very important. Very important is also the rights of Indigenous women and girls. And here yesterday at the opening ceremony, it was so clear to see that it was as if there were many more women participating than in the previous years. And I think that is really very, very encouraging, and which also is in good, and which is probably also related to the attention that the CEDAW, the Convention for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, a few years ago, they came out with a general recommendation 39 on the rights of Indigenous women and girls. And I think that recommendation has really been very important in also contributing to a heightened attention to the rights of Indigenous women and girls, while they are also part of collectives, part of their peoples, can enjoy their rights as Indigenous peoples. And I think one of the things that will also come up is actually that reminds us how important it is for us while working for the empowerment of women and girls, that we don't forget our men and boys. There are many indicators, statistics on well-being, longevity, that shows that our men and our boys are also struggling. Let me just mention suicide, where men are overrepresented compared to women in the statistics. Let me say no one should be represented in an ideal world in suicide statistics, but I think that is an indication of life as an Indigenous man, Indigenous boy is really very difficult. And another phenomenon which is closely related to the increasing armed conflicts and wars that we are seeing today is the phenomenon of forced conscriptions into the national armies of indigenous men. I expect that some of my colleagues of the forum will also mention that during the session. And then other issues that are still related also to indigenous people's right to self-determination is, of course, the conflation of indigenous peoples with local communities. And this is especially something that we see in the context of multilateral environment treaties and processes. And it's really very problematic because it undermines the rights of indigenous peoples to self-determination, to their rights to land and resources, and also to free from consent. Apart from the very practical thing of, no one knows who those local communities are. And then, so of course, that will also be part of the discussion for the importance of actually finding solutions to the climate change that we live in now, but also the biodiversity crisis. And within that, it is also one of the things that are increasingly also being discussed and which will also be discussed at this forum is the financing of indigenous peoples' efforts for and actions within biodiversity management and conservation, as well as for climate change adaptation and mitigation. Studies shows that, despite many beautiful words of how important indigenous peoples are for biodiversity and for the protection of the environment, only a tiny fraction of finances and support actually go to indigenous peoples. And when they finally are directed to indigenous peoples, then it's often directed to intermediaries. So I really hope that this forum also will help raise attention to this very pertinent issue of that empowerment of indigenous peoples themselves also means that they should also be entitled to and get the funding to do actions to combat climate change and to protect nature.
Thank you. How can the outcomes document be better utilized for Indigenous advocacy?
Which outcomes document?
I think it's the report.
Okay. Yeah, I think what is very, very important is very often you get the sense that when people leave the forum, the report is adopted, then they go home and then they completely forget about what was discussed, and only a few dedicated one maybe reads it. So I think what is important is that more people, both indigenous peoples and their representatives, as well as governments, NGOs, national human rights institutions, that they actually make an effort to go through the recommendations and use them actively. And I must say that, the recommendations of the report of the forum are actually quite well written and well conceived. So it shouldn't be problematic to interpret them or to implement them. So this is my encouragement. Read and use the report. It's a tool for everyone that works to promote indigenous people's rights and to and work on the Indigenous issues to use, so that we can maximize both the impact of the permanent forum on Indigenous issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.